All right, looks like we got some people in here. I'm going to go ahead and get started with some slides and introduce people just in case. I'm Mike Peterson. I'm with Loft. I'm senior platform advocate or marketing engineer or whatever I need to be to make videos and like demos and stuff like that and kind of show off how to use vCluster and then DevPod and some other stuff. And I'm joined by Rohit. What exactly would you say you do there, Rohit?
Yeah, so I'm Rohit, and you might seen me in some cloud talks and stuff. But yeah, like I also work as a principal product evangelist at Taikun CloudWorks, Taikun. So here I'm handling the product marketing as well as the product evangelism for Taikun CloudWorks. This is really amazing platform, and I just love to use it. So that's why I joined Taikun. So yeah, and we are presenting today a new feature about the same. So I'm excited for that. Like I don't know about you, so if you are excited, please comment and ask your questions. We will love to answer them. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and get started. And I'm going to introduce vCluster real quick. And then after I'm done with some slides, we'll get to some slides from Rohit and talk about some of the stuff that you're probably here to actually see. All right, so what is vCluster? So vCluster reduces Kubernetes cost and sprawl with virtual Kubernetes clusters. Introducing vCluster, if you haven't heard of it, made by Loft, right? 40 million plus uses, 40 million plus downloads from like Docker Hub. That's what we're actually calculating there. 5,000 plus GitHub stars. And if you've been to a KubeCon, you've probably seen a talk about it, using it for stuff like CodeFresh and some other companies. So why vCluster? Because cloud spend is on the rise. So Gartner forecasts worldwide public cloud spending to reach 679 billion in 2024, which is a 20.4% increase from 2023. And 70% of organizations identified over-provisioned Kubernetes as the leading cause for their surge in spending. So companies create a lot of Kubernetes clusters. So a separate cluster for every team, customer, and environment, and that's hundreds of clusters. And then you're also talking about cluster fees times that like hundreds of clusters. And then the platform stack is replicated hundreds of times, right? So you've got Cert Manager running 100 times. Maybe it's got like 20 different versions and some of them are too old, or you've got Istio running and it's not on the same version for every customer or for every user or customer. So it kind of gets sprawling. It sprawls out pretty quickly and then like it's hard to manage. So what you could do is you could optimize your Kubernetes infrastructure with virtual clusters. And instead of say you had these 3 clusters, it could be more than 3. Like we're just kind of showing off a diagram here of 3. It could be like, you've got like 20 people on the same one or more. But you're taking like these 3 clusters and you're putting on a single cluster. And instead of having all the stuff running, 3 different times, now you've got it running one time and you're sharing it up with the vCluster instead. So you can make sure that it's easier for your platform team to be on the same version of Cert Manager across your different physical clusters. And then you can just share it up to the vCluster and make sure you're using the same versions. All right, so what are virtual clusters? So virtual clusters are a Kubernetes concept that enables isolated clusters to be run within a single physical Kubernetes cluster. So some of the advantages of the platform/pro are something like sleep mode, which will reduce idle workloads and reduce the cost by putting clusters to sleep when not in use. So basically when a cluster is not being used, virtual cluster, it'll scale all of the pods down to 0 and it's not going to use those resources. So if you're scaling based on workloads, you can scale down when your stuff's not in use. And there's a shared platform stack, so you can share up Cert Manager, OPA, Istio, and all of that to the vCluster, so you're only running it once. One of the big uses is like an ingress controller and a load balancer. You can share that up with the vCluster, so you can reduce how many load balancers you're using per user. And then you can have multi-tenant clusters, so you can just break the clusters up a little bit better than namespaces and give each of your users an API endpoint so they think that they're using a real Kubernetes cluster. And this could be like a 50% plus cost savings for this. So it's basically seamless to shift to virtual clusters. You can deploy a virtual cluster with the same tools and workflows. So if you're using Helm, basically you're just changing where the kubeconfig points to, and then you're deploying to the virtual cluster instead of the physical cluster. It's a Kubernetes certified distribution, same API endpoint. You can use the same version that's the base cluster is using, or you can use a newer, older version in case you need to test that. And there's no need to re-architect any software to change your deployment pipelines. So basically, you can transform your Kubernetes strategy throughout the software lifecycle. Pre-production, you can empower developers with self-service Kubernetes. They can go in and create their own clusters without having to have access to AWS or anything like that. They're just using the UI and creating it based on the clusters you give them access to. You can accelerate CI/CD with ephemeral Kubernetes clusters. You can elevate your ISV offering with a dedicated cluster per customer. So instead of using an EKS cluster per customer, you can set up a large EKS cluster and then break it up based on node pools and give your customers access to it through there. And then build and manage Kubernetes service with best-in-class COGS. So what does it enable to achieve? So some of our customers, they're reducing Kubernetes cost by using less clusters. So they're not doing an EKS cluster per SaaS. What they're doing is a single EKS cluster and then virtual clusters and then deploying their stack on there. Self-service clusters for dev, test, and QA. So if your developers need access to Kubernetes, you can give them a virtual cluster instead of spinning up more hardware and then having to pay for licensing fees and stuff for like EKS. And then multi-tenancy for production apps. So for this, you can actually use like for CoreWeave, what they're doing is virtual clusters for GPUs, and then they're using like Kube or something like that for VMs. But that's basically it. That's vCluster. Let's go ahead and get into your slides. Hopefully that wasn't too fast. If anyone has questions, let me know. I'm going to be watching the chat and stuff as I pass it over to Rohit. So if you have questions, let us know, and then I'll try to bring them up too. But if you want to go ahead and share.
Yeah, it was really nice talking about hearing about vCluster again.
And sorry, just trying to go through
If
it quick.
Yeah, it was quick for sure. But yeah, no worries. Like I have some slides about vCluster. We will cover it soon. So if you have questions, please add in the chat box about vCluster. We will love to answer them. And for now, I will get to my slides.
I don't know if you've got questions about vCluster, join our Slack. We're getting that up too. You can join Slack, and then you can ask in the vCluster channel, slack.loft.sh, and then you'll be able to share some of your information too if you want, in case people have questions about this.
Oh, so these things happens. Yeah, is it visible? Yeah.
Yep, I can see it. Looks good.
Yeah, so I'm Rohit, as I talked about, but yeah, like today I'm presenting vCluster inside Taikun CloudWorks. So what actually is a vCluster we just saw, but what is Taikun CloudWorks and what we are talking about today? So we are the only native virtual cluster providers for now, and we are really excited to host that. And it was really amazing to see how virtual cluster works inside the Taikun CloudWorks. And I will give you a quick demo about it, so don't worry about that. So yeah, first year of Kubernetes and 10th year of Kubernetes is still simple. We are facing a lot of challenges, and Kubernetes is complex and all. We know from a long time. So let's see. Let's address this. Like reality, we know from long time Kubernetes is complex. With a steep learning curve and over 1,000 projects and tools in the CNCF landscape, and keeps rising and all, managing Kubernetes can become overwhelming. Operational pain points like cluster upgrades and namespace isolation often make it difficult for teams to efficiently scale their applications. Due to these complexities, managed Kubernetes services have become the go-to solution for organization. But even they come with their own challenges, right? So as we can see here, this is our CSF landscape, and this is the standard managed Kubernetes service. This is provided by a lot of companies, and it has their own challenges, and because they promise to handle their complexity for you, but do they deliver their promise? So that's why Taikun CloudWorks. I would like to introduce Taikun CloudWorks. It is really simple. Deploy Kubernetes clusters on demand across public and private clouds. There are a lot of private clouds and public clouds you can introduce, like we support 9. Automatically set up essential services like backup, restore, security groups, and monitoring everything inside the one platform. Manage everything through an UI or create your Terraform scripts and go like just on a click. We have centralized billing engine for custom billing reports, so you can use that. And the best part is like you can bring your own cloud, and you don't have to worry about, like, we have public provider, and we also have the Zadara cloud services and Taikun CloudWorks. So as we see this, so what actually was missing in the standard Kubernetes service? So if you can see, it provides the automated management, handle upgrades, it offers the major cloud providers, but when we talk about it, it miss some things, right? So here it is. Uh, there is something which is different in the Taikun CloudWorks. Pre-install and pre-configure services for security, networking, observability, lifecycle management, application deployment. Everything is covered here. So you can use the key clock SSO, then Kubernetes policies for the securities. Then you can networking through load balancer. We support metric. You can use metrics by Prometheus. Everything is integrated. Whatever open source projects you want to use, you just need to get the Helm project and integrate here and deploy the application in clicks. So we have like application marketplace, which I will just show in a minute. So I guess this simplified a little, but what actually is inside there? So unified user experience, which we talked about, then application as a service, which is nothing but deploy application just in a click. then automated deployment workflows, centralized billing engine, and everything you can have here. With these are the different cloud providers we support. Then, uh, what is self-service driven architecture? So, Taikun is built to address the Taikun CloudWorks is built to address your different Kubernetes complexities, like from the MSPs to system integrators, then ISVs. With CloudWorks, you can get managed Kubernetes as a service, which we mentioned from the start, like your day-to-day, day one to day two operations, which we talked about previously also in my previous talks. But yeah, if you want to know about more, you can check it out that. So cluster as a service and namespace as a service, which is nothing but you can spin up Kubernetes clusters, isolated namespaces on demand with easy monitoring and management. We also have the AI integrated, so AI assisted troubleshooting. Then there's the integrated DevOps engineering services, nothing but CI/CD, observability, monitoring. Everything is there, so you just have to try it out. It just makes your like delivering solution to customers and any user managing infrastructure. Taikun CloudWorks is designed to make Kubernetes simple, efficient, and cost effective, so you don't have to worry. And then, if you want to, if you have still have any questions with the Taikun CloudWorks, we will talk about it. You can just drop the questions in the chat box. Yeah, this is what we talked about yet. And if you want to screenshot or something, you can do it. So let's discuss today why virtual clusters and why we cluster. So that is the reason, right? So first, learn what is multi-tenancy. So before we get into vClusters, it is really important to understand that. So multi-tenancy is an approach where multiple tenants, which is nothing but your company's separate teams, right? Or business units share a single infrastructure resource, such as Kubernetes cluster, while maintaining isolated environment for security, resource management, and different things, right? So multi-tenancy in Kubernetes traditionally revolves around like namespace isolation, where each tenant gets a separate namespace within the same cluster. This is called as resource isolation, but presently presents some kind of limitations. For instance, while namespaces are isolated, tenants can still see each other's resources, which may not ideal for all organizations, right? So this you can see here using namespaces to partition multi-tenant cluster. If you like Kubernetes memes, shout out to meme natives. You can go and check it out. Like they have really nice memes. So this what we discussed advantages and there is some limitations. So this is simple diagram about that. So there is still some challenges with namespace multi-tenancy, which is nothing but resource restriction, like difficulty in enforcing strict resource limits within namespaces, which can lead to your noisy neighbor issues. Then access control, namespace multi-tenancy still requires careful management to ensure that tenants don't accidentally interfere with each other's applications. Then project isolation, which is nothing but while resource isolation still exists, full application isolation, like your Kubernetes versions, policies, configurations, different versions, then it is really hard to achieve within namespaces alone, right? So these challenges highlight the need for advanced solution, which is nothing but the vCluster. So yeah, what are virtual cluster, vCluster, which we like Mike has still given some introduction about same, but yeah, I would really like to deep down one slide into it. So what is vCluster? A virtual cluster allows you to spin up multiple isolated clusters within a single Kubernetes cluster, which is your whole host cluster. So let's say you have like host and whatever vClusters are there, they're just having your isolated around that. So whatever benefits you can offer in the traditional host cluster, you can get it here. So it is nothing but based on the previous namespace isolation, but it has like better resource isolation. Let's say each cluster operates as it if were a fully independent cluster, so allowing each team or tenant to have their own Kubernetes control plane. Now you don't have to worry about that namespace isolation, right? Then custom Kubernetes versions, tenants can run different versions of Kubernetes within their vCluster without interfering with main cluster, which is really amazing. Then cost efficiency, of course, this is like one of the important ways, like points why the vCluster is chosen, right? Like unlike the physical clusters, vCluster share their underlying infrastructure, which is your platform stack, significantly reducing your overhead cost and stuff, right? So this doesn't only simplifies the multi-tenancy, but also improves the user experience by isolating tenants both logically and physically. So let's deep dive into like how virtual clustering, what are the benefits of virtual clusters? Is really cheap and easy. Sorry, it is really strong, and it has a it is it is restricted in some ways and all. But let's say there is namespace per tenant, there is cluster per tenant. Both has their own little you can say restrictions, and people avoid to use. But vCluster is a perfect solution, sits in the middle, which will solve your all of the use cases. So this is the vCluster architecture, and Taikun CloudWorks is like Taikun CloudWorks will have your cluster, but now you don't have to worry about going to the installation and going through the lot of clicks and using the CLI to install vCluster and stuff. You can simply go to Taikun CloudWorks in the Kubernetes cluster, create your Kubernetes cluster in front projects, and there is virtual cluster section. Just enable it, and you can create. Just go to that section and add a virtual cluster. Done. You have the virtual cluster. It has the same architecture like a vCluster, nothing different, and like something like name changes and stuff. It is the same. You just have to go to the vClusters section, virtual clusters section, and create your own virtual cluster, and then you can create your kube config and use it. So this is one of the example why what can be benefit for the virtual clusters on Taikun CloudWorks. Like you can run multiple virtual clusters inside a single physical Kubernetes cluster, and managing this in the Taikun is like user friendly because it has nice UI. Then delivering Kubernetes as service to multiple teams, then you can deliver to with full isolation. This really helps with your company and whatever your clients you are working with. Without the complexity of managing numerous physical clusters, you can do this really easy. So this is small example where you can see you can deploy the worker plane and control worker plane, master plane, everything inside the Taikun CloudWorks, and use the virtual cluster to your cluster has its own API servers and all. This already has been talked on a lot in the webinars of Loft previously, so I don't need to call it again. So yeah, you can check that previous ones. But this will give you example like what happens inside the Taikun CloudWorks with the virtual clusters. So everything is there. And moving ahead, you can see what another benefit you can get with the Taikun CloudWorks is like it is integrated with a lot of open source projects like Velero. So you don't need to install the Velero separately and stuff. You can use your virtual cluster, and inside that you just have to enable the backup in your host cluster. So anytime you can backup, restore anytime with the Velero inside the Taikun CloudWorks. So you don't have to worry about you are losing the backups and restoring with the disaster recovery and stuff. Of course, cost optimization with virtual cluster. What we should talk about a lot, right? So, one of the I can say primary benefit of adopting vCluster is like the cost savings. So, a SaaS company with like 100 developers across 20 teams, let's say they have like each team operates its own Kubernetes cluster, typically with 3 nodes per cluster. With 20 physical clusters on AWS EKS, the annual cost comes to like 44,000 or something. So just for node and management costs. So this does not even include additional traffic, storage, or other infrastructure cost. Now imagine the overhead involved in managing all these clusters, upgrades, monitoring, and security, not to mention the unnecessary duplication of resources. But still, it will take around like 44,000 or something. Then with let's say with virtual clusters, what can happen? So by switching to virtual clusters inside a single EKS cluster, the cost is reduced drastically. Instead of maintaining 20 separate clusters, you can now run virtual cluster within a single EKS cluster with optimized node usage. For the same setup, the annual cost would be around like 10,000 or something. So this is really 11,300. But disclaimer: all these figures includes our approximate counts. It is not like uh, perfect or something. Depends on what you're using, what kind of a use case you have. So, but here I saved like 75%, and you can save 50%, you can save 40%. But yeah, you will save really amazing kind of a drop with vCluster. This isn't just about cost reduction, it is also about efficient resource management and the ability to scale without inflating cost unnecessary. And vClusters allow organization to focus on what matters. So not like managing infrastructure, just it allows with everything. So uh, if we talk about it, so let's walk through a real world world scenario of a company like transitioning from physical Kubernetes cluster to vCluster on Taikun CloudWorks. So I would just like to give you how you can just set it up, get started with Taikun CloudWorks on your own system, on Taikun CloudWorks. I will also share some resources in the chat. Like Mike can share that. It is like blog, videos, and stuff we just released.
Okay.
You can go and try it out. But for now, let me see if I can show you a quick demo about getting started with Taikun CloudWorks. Yeah. Yeah, hopefully it is visible.
Yep, I can see everything. So
Yeah.
far, it sounds like a lot of the stuff. It's like we're making it hard for developers. I mean, we've made it harder. Like we were giving them a VM before, so like, oh, I've got my own virtual machine. I can do whatever I want. But then that's a lot of responsibility. And then we went to
Yeah,
containers, and we're like, well, now we're giving you a namespace. You need to make sure you're, targeting this namespace to do stuff. And if you don't, and you put everything in default, then you're going to step on everyone else's toes, and that's a little bit more difficult now. But then we go back to virtual machines or virtual clusters, and now they all have access to their own thing again, and they don't have to worry about that. So that's pretty cool.
yeah. So,
And then,
like
sorry, go ahead.
if you want to try about Taikun.cloud, you just have to go to Taikun.cloud and sign in, like register. Once that is done, you will see like you will not see like this many things here. Like I have some already created clusters, but yeah, I have created one project for you, which is marketing AI demo or something. So, here you will see I have quick. So there are two ways to create a virtual cluster. It is simple. You just have to go here and create a virtual clusters. Let's say I want to create
Now this
Mike's.
is this is creating on top of a Kubernetes cluster that you're running within the same environment.
I will show that. So this is
Okay,
Mike.
cool.
This is Mike VC1, and parent cluster is nothing but marketing area. So just I have to just go and select this and then create virtual cluster. Done. And you will see it is creating here. Yeah, Mike VC1, and it should not take like more than 1 or 2 minutes. It will be really fast. But meanwhile, I will show you another way. We have another way. Like go to marketing AI demo, go to this virtual cluster section, add virtual cluster. Here also we can create Mike VC2. And another thing is like you can set up the project expiration time, like when you want to cancel it or something. Let's say today, tomorrow, I don't need this virtual cluster. So just delete it and create a virtual cluster. See, this is so easy to create, and you don't have to worry about going the if you don't if you're not using the Kubernetes, if you don't like the Kubernetes complexities and all, this is a really perfect thing to try out, because Taikun CloudWorks provide like nice dashboard where you can just go and check the Kubernetes health and stuff, projects and your events, logs and everything. And we also have the AI integrated kits. So you just have to go and in the like AI assistant, you can enable it. So in the settings, you have to just go for the backup. If you enable it, this is nothing but we talked about Velero and stuff, right? So you can uh, so here you can just enable the backup and go and restore it whenever you need. And similarly, for the virtual clusters which we created, see my VCS one is created in like under 2 minutes, and it's so fast, right? Oh, who created clusters so fast? For the Kubernetes cluster, uh, I guess in normal cluster, it takes around 14 to 17 minutes. Really, this is normal time, right? But for the virtual cluster, you can see it is so fast and like 1 minute to 2 minutes. Another thing which is nice about the Taikun CloudWorks is like go to kubeconfig, create a kubeconfig. Let's say kubeconfig here, and you can specialize the role according to use case, like you want to edit it, admin, view and stuff, and which namespaces you want to access in your virtual cluster. Virtual cluster is nothing difficult, nothing different than the Kubernetes cluster. It is quite similar. Everything is similar because it is using the host cluster as a Kubernetes cluster. So you have like everything, default namespaces, kube system, every namespace and you can give the particular access to anyone. And amazing thing is like once you create this kube config, you don't have to worry about like losing it or something. You can download it for later, which is nothing but your YML file. It will be. Uh, I can also view it here. Yeah, see, and also, uh, and also, we can also see we can also access this in our own integrated terminal in Taikun CloudWorks. So let's say you want to get started with like, let's see, get pods or something. I don't, of course, I don't have that course or something, but yeah, you can see some nodes. You can see the service if we have anything. So everything is visible here. So you don't have to worry about any difference in the Kubernetes cluster and all. And you can access this through integrated terminal. So you don't have to install it differently for the virtual cluster and all. And it's like just, I guess we installed virtual cluster in like 2 clicks or 1 clicks, right? Going to the create virtual cluster and done.
So we had a
And
question. It said, is the virtual cluster feature out of the box with Taikun? Is it like it's just part of the something you can just install once you have like a Kubernetes cluster? Like it's just on there out of the box. I
yeah,
don't know if you want to
yeah,
expand on that, John.
yeah, yeah. So it is like you just have to create the project here. In the project, you
Okay.
can create Kubernetes cluster of any version. You can enable the AI assistant and stuff, bind the flavors and stuff, autoscaler. Once your project is ready, which is nothing but your Kubernetes project, right? With your master node, worker node, bastion server and stuff, you can use this parent project to create a virtual cluster, which is nothing but normal host cluster and your virtual clusters. And these virtual clusters you can create like for any numbers and stuff, depending on your Kubernetes cluster, how much you provide the depth and all. And one of the another thing is like in the applications, you can use the lot of applications whatever you want, and Apache, and let's say you want to install like Nginx server or something, you can just search here and click on the plus, add to catalog and install it to your virtual cluster. It's simple as that. So I hope it was really
Well,
easy to use and all.
another question: is there an API/CLI for all this too? Like, say I want to automate all that, and like I'm just using like GitHub or something like that, and I want to create
Yeah,
a
yeah.
vCluster.
Yeah. So we also have the Terraform script. So we have the Terraform provider. I will just give you the link. Uh, Taikun Terraform provider. I guess it is in that getting started blog, which I guess Mike has already shared. If not shared, let me know. I
Yep, the
will.
information, yeah, shared to everyone in there. So if you want, you can click and see more information there. I'm gonna run one more poll too. So I'm running some polls. If you have questions, post some questions. Let us know. We can answer some stuff. We got a little bit longer to hang out if you want to find out more.
Yeah,
Do
yeah, yeah.
you have docs for it too? You want to bring up the docs real quick, or
Yeah.
you can share that while I'm running the other poll.
Okay, okay, sure. So if we go to if you go to Taikun.cloud blog and sorry, your docs, uh, yeah, there is some polls going on, and I got notification. Sorry for that.
Yeah, sorry. No, I saw you see it come up as it came up when you were when you were on there. So I can share the docs real quick too.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm sharing it. Yeah, here it
Okay, you got
is.
it. Cool.
Is it visible?
Yep, I can
Yeah.
see everything.
Yeah, so you can go to this documentation in the vCluster, and we have like a project page and everything. Whatever I just mentioned, you can do that and create here, and it's simple like that. You can access the cluster, create on your own, and
All right, we got a
whatever.
question.
Yeah,
All right, so if we
yeah.
have dev, test, prod, then we can have vClusters on all the environments for tenant or business division, right? Yeah, so you can do all. The beauty is you can do all of it, right? Like if you want, you can run that all on the same physical cluster, or if you have multiple physical clusters, you can kind of split that up. But basically, yeah, you can run dev, test, and prod because they're all going to run different versions of the CRDs you want to install into them. If you want to install them into the virtual cluster versus sharing from the base cluster, so like say you want to test a CRD, you could do that there. Say you want to test a new version of the Kubernetes API, you can do that there. But yeah, you can put it on, you can put them everywhere, right? Because you're just splitting up the Kubernetes cluster and you're creating new API endpoints. But if you want to add to that too, Rohit, like would you put all of that in the same project or what would you do? Okay, here's another question too.
Yeah. So
Go that first.
yeah, yeah. Tell me what. Tell me if you have any questions. Yeah.
All right, all right, so basically, yeah, anywhere. So the second question is, do you support Oracle Cloud Infrastructure?
OCI not yet, but yeah, like if you need it, just reach out to us on our documentation on our contact us page, and you can get it supported. But currently, it is like there is OpenStack, Zara, then Google Cloud, AWS, and whatever you need. Currently, it is there. But OCI, if you need, just ping us. We will do it. No problem. And
All right.
let me check the questions.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't have the access to question and answer. Yeah, yeah, I have that. So yeah, I now I got the question which Mike was asking about. Yeah, so it is like if we have a dev test prod, then we can have vClusters on all the environments for tenant or business division, right? So yeah, of course. Yeah, like you no. So it is simple. Like how you create the infrastructure for the Kubernetes clusters. It is similar to it, but only difference is like you can create like 2000 clusters 2000 clusters without have to worry about like speed or without have to worry about cost and optimization and stuff with having the host Kubernetes cluster. But yeah, there are some restrictions like dev test prod, which you talked about. So when you creating different environments for the different tenant, all will be separated according to cluster. So different tenants will have their own cluster, which we already talked about. So you don't have to worry about your teams and all. So every team will have their different cluster. Watch clusters. You can separate it out. So there's no worries. Yeah. And I guess OCI has a yeah, OCI. Okay. Uh, does they call it okay? I don't know. But yeah, OCI, so yeah, we can definitely check it out. And we are also coming with amazing feature in the future, in the next release, which will make your work really easy. Like you can bring your cluster and get it set up on our Taikun CloudWorks really easy. Yeah.
All right, so another question too. I can take that one. Are there scaling limits from vClusters to physical clusters, and do they inherit RBAC from its parent? So it's not it's you're gonna set like the platform engineers are probably going to create the virtual clusters in a namespace. So they're going to need permissions to be able to create that and bring it up. And then once the virtual cluster comes up, it gets a new API endpoint that's not going to it's not going to inherit what RBAC you have on the host cluster necessarily from the rules, but it's going to be restricted by them. So you'll have an API that comes up that you can do whatever you want with. You're going to be administrator on there, but it's still going to be restricted on what you can do based on the host cluster. So you'll still have control of that. And then scaling limits. So for the open source, it's going to be like you're going to have additional pod for each virtual cluster that comes up. So it's going to be based on how many pods you can run on the physical cluster. So if you have a limit for how many pods you can run on the physical cluster, then that limit is going to be whatever your workload is plus one for every one of those that comes up. And then for the platform slash pro product, what you can do is you can run the virtual cluster control plane in a control plane Kubernetes cluster, and then only run workloads on the nodes if you need to. So like say you've got GPUs or something like that, you can restrict it to where just the workloads are running on that, and you're not actually doing plus one for every workload that you're running. So that's kind of the scaling limit, just based on how many pods you can run on a single node. And then we have I have one more. I'm going to another question too from Satish. So how do we restrict access from one team to get the other cluster? So each team is probably going to get their own virtual cluster, or even like each user. Like that's kind of the benefit of how like low cost slash low overhead it is. So you may put more than one person on a virtual cluster, and then it's just going to be like they have their own Kubernetes cluster. but they're probably each going to get their own virtual cluster, and then you're not going to need to really restrict access because they have their own API endpoint. I don't know if you want to expand on any of that, Rohit. So I think like
Yeah,
short answer
yeah,
is like everyone has their own API, their own Kubernetes cluster, so like, you don't really need to.
of course. Yeah, and you can cluster, you can deploy like a lot of clusters in really easy, and you can use this with the CLI API and everything. You of course, Terraform, which you talked about, and I have shared the example Terraform script, which is nothing but getting started with your OpenStack cluster with like vCluster, really easy. So just go and check it out. That's Terraform script. You just have to install, use the Terraform and create your infrastructure in just a click or something. And still, if you face any challenges, you can reach out to us. There's like chat box, there's different contact us, and you can always reach out to me if you have any notes. So yeah, please bring us the question if you have anything. And meanwhile, I also like to mention like what of the things you can do with the Taikun CloudWorks with a vCluster, with a, means like with integrating the vCluster with Taikun CloudWorks, what all the amazing work you can do other than what we mentioned, which is nothing but the monitoring thing, like monitoring that is already embedding Prometheus pre-configured in the Taikun CloudWorks, so you don't have to worry about. Similarly, CRDs and all is there, so cluster API integration and stuff, which you can do all around. And uh, what all the things with vCluster you have to install separately. You can have it pre-installed in the Taikun CloudWorks, like Velero, right? Velero pre-installed on your host cluster, white labeling, then like code ENS pre-configured, then ingress plus like having the you don't have to like like you can have the ingress plus like Taikun ingress to expose services without the need for a load balancer for dev test kind of environments, right? And let's say uh, there's a when we talk about the application lifecycle and stuff, there's a pre-integrated your CI/CD tooling and stuff. Then you also have this set of applications in our application marketplace, like I showed that explore applications tab, right? Inside that there was different applications. You can just click the plug and add to catalog and use that catalog to allocate in your own Kubernetes virtual clusters, which will have the host Kubernetes cluster, right? Then management, it's simple. You can go through the console, then console terminal. You can download that kube config on your own local system and access there. It will be just like easy, and you don't have to worry about you. And one of the amazing thing is like you can organize the projects really easier. Like you can manage the clusters, you can manage the resources, applications, users. Like you can restrict the user, like manager, user, and any particular user you want to just provide the access to that vCluster, you can do that with our Taikun CloudWorks, and it can be host or vCluster, whatever is fine. Then you can limit the quotas, which can like CPU, RAM, storage, and stuff. Then one of the amazing thing which I mentioned, I guess you forgot or nothing. Like we just showed it. It's like expiration, right? You can control the lifetime of projects. Then RBAC, uh, then SSO. With SSO, you have to set up like set up separately in the vCluster, but here you will have the key clock, which can provide you the SSO. Events are logged, searchable, and downloaded anytime in the Taikun CloudWorks. And also, we explain the logs really nicely in the newest feature. So definitely check it. It explains the logs in the plain English, and it is simple to read and all. So also multi-region global control plane. Then there is edge infrastructure pattern. We have like different partners in the edge, so that will help you to use these vClusters with that kind of cloud providers. So it depends on what use case you have. You just have to let us know, and we will get started with it. And so yeah, if I want to talk about the Taikun CloudWorks, and then yeah, you can always reach out to us. There's nice things we provide, like support, then private Slack channel and stuff. So Yeah, if you still have the questions specific to Taikun CloudWorks vCluster or getting started on Taikun CloudWorks with vCluster, just let us know. We will get it started. Yeah.
So where are you going to be at KubeCon Salt Lake City, or where's the next event? Or do you have are you presenting anywhere soon?
Yeah, so I had the talk at KCD Portugal, but I missed it. But I plan to go the KubeCon NA. I had the talk. I heard the talk there, but I I didn't got a visa yet, so I'm just waiting. Yeah.
Just went, yeah. Well, hopefully that comes through, and then hopefully people can come see you in Salt Lake City, like a little over a
Yeah, yeah,
month now, and then
yeah. I have missed the KubeCon NA like 3 times having a talk. So
yeah.
I just recorded my talk, and that is the problem with the visa. But that is different. Yeah.
So hopefully, so is your talk? What's your talk on?
This time it will be around just community oriented, and
Okay.
also, yeah, also talking about community security and stuff. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So people can see you live too if you're in the EU, especially. You got any? Are you going to be in KubeCon EU next year? That'll be a little bit easier probably to get to. I think.
KubeCon EU will be easier because KubeCon EU is just in London
Yeah.
and yeah, so uh, I'm just looking forward to it because KubeCon India, which is happening for the first time, and I was in India, then I came here. Now I will miss the KubeCon India too. So every time anywhere KubeCon is happening, I am not there. So that is the
It's
problem.
dodging you somehow. Well, hopefully you'll be in SLC. Yeah. So hopefully people can come, or if not, they can at least watch the talk and then reach out to you. But so join us on
Yeah.
Slack if you have questions. If you want like follow up or something like that, let us know. People can follow you on Twitter and add you on LinkedIn if they have questions.
Yeah, you can always reach out to Twitter or LinkedIn. It is like Ghumare64, GHUMARE64 on Twitter or Rohit Ghumare on LinkedIn. So reach out to me if you have any doubts. And also, if you have doubts, you can't reach out to me, then go to the YouTube. There also, if you just comment the doubts, I will answer them. As well as you just have to search my name. You will find any channel where you can ask me doubts. So you don't have to worry about it. And
Awesome.
I will try my best to answer.
Thank you for the presentation. The information was super useful and it looks pretty cool. Like I haven't seen something integrated before like that. It makes it look pretty easy and it's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. So, you have anything you want to say before we let everybody go? Or...
Yeah, it was really amazing audience, and there was really cool questions. I love uh, it is really nice to answer the questions which are really like correlated to what you're talking about. So it was really amazing. And Mike has been really great host, and he's doing this for a long time, and I know. But yeah, like if you still have any doubts and stuff, you can always reach out to me. And getting started with Taikun CloudWorks is really easy for any companies and any person. So if you are looking for some revolutionary advanced Kubernetes management service, please check out Taikun CloudWorks. It will really help you. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, we should have this video too later in case you want to like reflect back on something and maybe you missed something or you want to go back and look at one of the slides. Be able to see it there. But thanks for the questions. The questions make it easier because then we can kind of answer stuff and not just kind of talk about something that people maybe aren't interested in, so that we can kind of answer exactly what you want to know. But thanks so much for joining. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you saw some new stuff and everything. I know I did. But see you next time. Oh, yeah, thank you. Thanks everybody. I'm gonna go ahead and end it, and then like I said, the recording will be available and stuff, and we should have some
Yeah.
communication on how to watch that if you want to follow up and watch it later. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
have a good Wednesday, and
Thank you,
thank you
John.
so much, Rohit.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye bye.